These 8 characters broke Super Smash Bros. With their overpowered moves, combos, and abilities, so busted that for some, pro players would actually push for a ban. And we're gonna start with the recent exploit that allows for Minecraft Steve to do something pretty game-breaking. Now, Steve has always had some fun and creative tech through the years. Well, maybe not fun for everyone. But the funny moments and memes slowly turned into a discussion over a complete ban in 2023 when it was discovered that Steve could cancel the stun you're supposed to receive after getting hit by an attack, in a maneuver dubbed by some in the community as the Phantom MLG. While at a glance this could just seem like a minor little quirk or detail, for the competitive scene, it really wasn't. Simply getting a failed block animation by trying to place one outside of the grid, placing a block without landing on it, or hitting special during the end lag of other attacks will activate this phantom state. Why was it so broken? Well, by ignoring the stun from attacks, it gives Steve a perfect, risk-free opportunity to punish the opponent with an attack in the air of his own. Something that's not actually supposed to be possible. This isn't a designed part of the game, and while it only works for low knockback moves, it's still incredibly useful and to many, isn't balanced in a fighting game. Oh sorry, party game. Can't forget that. Super powerful, super unintentional on the part of the developers, and to many, super worthy of getting the character banned from competitive play. Thing is, this wasn't even the first time Steve ban discussion had circulated. Going back to the year prior, Steve's unorthodox playstyle had seen him take a sharp rise to the top of the tier list, even before this new exploit was discovered. While this movement initially took a while to gain momentum, the sudden rise of players that were, to be blunt, relatively unknown prior to Steve's release, that took upset after upset after upset over established top players, rose some red flags for many. The Phantom MLG was just the straw to break the camel's back. But it gets even deeper. Collision 2023, a pretty big tournament, opted to go for banning just the Phantom MLG technique, and not the entire character. If you performed it in a game, you'd basically get disqualified. But due to the difficulty to enforce this, since matches now have to be more precisely evaluated by staff, not every tournament went for this approach. The Coinbox series of online Ultimate tournaments opted to entirely ban Steve in March 2023 because of this one technique, with more tournaments to follow suit. But for as broken as this is, Steve, funnily enough, isn't even the first character players try to get banned in Smash Ultimate, as we'll see in a bit, and definitely isn't the first character to get banned in the series' history. There were actually discussions to ban Sheik in the early days of Melee. While today Sheik is still considered very good in the meta, you'd think that the character to ban, or at least have discussions to ban, would be one of the characters at the tippity top of the tier list. Your Foxes, your Jigglypuffs, but no, Sheik was actually the first culprit. But why? Being really good, but also easier to learn and pick up and play, the earlier meta for Melee back in the day realized this, and she was dominating and winning lots of tournaments with her great matchups against low and mid-tier characters, and faring well against top tiers as well, just being so flexible with the movement options and good recovery, leading her to being at the #1 spot on the community tier list for the first 4 years of the game's life. Just to take a shot that's about as long as Smash 4's entire run, just thought I'd throw that in. As people adapted and the community started to unlock some of the potential in other characters, however, this discussion would slowly peter out. So while Sheik would never actually get banned, I can't really say the same for another Melee character. Wobbling is an infinite combo exclusive to the Ice Climbers in Super Smash Bros. Melee, where, after a certain percent, the opponent cannot break out of Popo's grab and will continuously get hit by Nana. This works because of an exploit in Melee's grab mechanics locking the player into the hit stun. Incredibly easy for the Ice Climber player to pull off, a combo capable of doing on anyone, except for another Ice Climber, and as such, incredibly broken. Over the years, wobbling was quite controversial in the Melee community to say the least, with many supporting a complete ban because it's just too powerful and almost always leads to a KO. And in 2019, action began to take place. First at the tournament Get On My Level in 2019, then followed by other majors including Smash World Tour in 2020, bans of the wobbling technique would be enforced, and today, wobbling is banned at almost every tournament. Sure, if you're a smaller event you can allow it, but there's a lot of pressure to follow the rules that big tournaments are using, and as such it's led to many previously known Ice Climber players dropping the character, or even quitting the game entirely. So while many may believe that it's unprecedented to ban just one technique with a character like Steve, this shows that we've seen something similar before. But there's an important question here. What happened to wobbling in future Smash games? It's not like the Ice Climbers are banned today. Well, in the series' next entry, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, wobbling in this form is impossible to perform since the game's grab mechanics received a heavy overhaul from Melee. Wish some other mechanics were left the same though. However, in this game, the Ice Climbers have gained new infinite chain grab techniques that still guarantee a KO if properly performed. Therein lies the key difference though, if properly performed. The infinite combos for Nana and Popo in this game have input patterns differing from character to character, since each has their own size and weight class. And there's RNG involved with a trip possibly breaking your grab up in the middle of your inputs, being difficult to complete even for advanced players. And as such, while still being high characters on the tier list, the Ice Climbers wouldn't be banned for this in Brawl. But while this one mechanic for the duo would be banned in Melee, at least this wasn't banning an entire character. The most infamous character banned in Smash history has to be Meta Knight, a newcomer to the series with plenty of relevance to Kirby fans, but one that the world hadn't got a chance to see given the spotlight amongst Nintendo's cast of icons. And, well, be careful what you wish for. Meta Knight dominated the competitive scene in Brawl. But why was he so broken? In short, he had pretty much everything. Great recovery, great frame data, his ability to edgeguard being the best in the cast, considered one of the only characters in the game who'd rather be offstage than on, with the only thing you could possibly want being some type of projectile, but even still, it was considered the perfect character for Brawl. And discussion of a Meta Knight ban would begin to emerge. There was a rumor circulating at the time that he was banned in Italian tournaments because of how broken he was. And while this would turn out to be false, this rumor sparked more and more people to want to ban him in other regions. In essence, they used these false rumors as justification to ban him over here. In 2011, the Unity Rule Set Committee, a tournament of organizers, suggested a new standardized rule set with the key suggestion inside of it being a complete ban of Meta Knight. A poll was held to see whether or not people wanted to ban him, and while a majority of the voters optioned to ban the character, it didn't reach the 75% threshold needed to completely get rid of Meta Knight. And as such, Apex, the most widely participated in tournament at the time, opted not to use this suggested rule set. Many top pros who mained Meta Knight said they wouldn't attend tournaments where he was banned. If their character wasn't available, why would they play? And in turn, most other tournament organizers ignore the propositions for a ban to keep the tournaments profitable. Tournaments are going to attract more viewership with the more good players that attend them. Meta Knight was banned in some areas, but not others, causing fractures in the Brawl competitive scene. All for this one new Kirby character. Maybe that's why we've never gotten a new one since. From the start of Smash 4 onwards, Meta Knight would be heavily nerfed and nowhere near this broken ever again. But this wasn't the case for all the characters. Another newcomer to the series this time around was Greninja. Destined to go on to become one of the most beloved Pokemon by the majority of the fan base, this wasn't certain prior to Smash 4. The Smash team was allegedly only given beta design images and concept art during development, so they had to improvise a lot when designing the character. And maybe that's why he was broken. In the early days of Smash 4, there were two main things that made Greninja really good. Gren's up smash was initially one of the best of its kind in the game. Massive reach, it was interruptible super quickly so you could combo the opponent much easier with low ending lag. To go along with this, his side special, Shadow Sneak, where you disappear and then reappear from within the stage, has an exploit that allowed you to completely cancel the ending lag of your aerial attacks when going into it, making the character so much more versatile and faster. If this stayed in the game, who knows? We might have seen another campaign to ban a character. But this time, Nintendo, surprisingly, was the one to shut it down. In this new era of character updates and patches, everyone's favorite Kalos starter was slapped with a huge nerf in the game's 1.0.4 patch, taking about everything good that I just mentioned and getting rid of it. The lag on the up smash was increased, the Shadow Sneak exploit would be gone in the patch after this, and a bunch of other tweaks would be made that ultimately led not to sadness by the fanbase, but to memes.
The DNA of the soul.
Better Nerf Greninja, inspired by a similar situation in the League of Legends community, took over Twitter and still gets referenced to this day. Gren would receive some smaller buffs down the road, but nothing that could restore him to his former glory at the start of the Smash 4 era. So while this may have come with a cost to the fans of the fast fictional amphibian, at least it showed Nintendo was willing to step in when something teetered on the edge of being broken. Well, at least we thought this was the case. Smash 4's DLC saw the return of many fan favorites. Mewtwo, Lucas, Roy, oh, well, I guess not you, but still a lot of them, okay? There were new additions too, but none more shocking than Final Fantasy's Cloud Strife. A character previously never thought to be possibly seen on a Nintendo platform today was not only here, but in their premier fighting franchise. It was amazing, and the character turned out that way too. Really good movement, was versatile, had the limit break mechanic allowing you to unleash a powerful attack that can KO opponents at low percents. All of this that can easily shoot a character up in the community tier lists. But nobody would really say that he was broken or needed a ban. Well, that was in singles at least. Yes, in Smash 4's doubles tournaments, it's estimated that 80 to 90% of the games were being won by teams that had at least one Cloud somewhere in their duo. Being so bad that it was at the point where if you weren't using a Cloud, you were almost just deliberately putting your team at a disadvantage. He was that good in the format. But that's the stat for if you just had at minimum one Cloud. Imagine how broken having two would be. Everything that was good about the character in singles was now enhanced in a format where one player could have more time to breathe at points, and other moves were able to combo well in a 2-on-1 scenario. With no update to fix this in sight, since it's a lot harder to balance a character in a more niche format than the standard. This got so bad and became very obnoxious to play against, to the point where Double Cloud got banned in many big tournaments at the time. The story even got covered by ESPN. Smash Bros going mainstream now? And this ban seemed to really have helped the situation. Having Cloud in at all was still really busted, again, 80 to 90% of wins, like really? But at least the damage was mitigated here. Until the Double Cloud team started switching to Cloud and Bayonetta as a backup, which itself started taking over the metagame and leading to it getting stale again. But with Smash 4 already being on its way out at this point though, combined with doubles not getting as much public attention as singles anyways, not much was done about this, and the category just sort of phased out. And hey, did I mention Bayonetta? Debuting in the series as the quote-unquote winner of the Smash 4 fighter ballot, where fans voted on who they wanted to see most in the game, only to be confirmed as a lie a few years later, Bayo received a mixed reception upon her introduction, only for that to get, shall we say, less mixed as time went on. Bayonetta debuted as being by far the strongest single character the roster had seen until that point, having the best recovery in the game, almost making her impossible to fight off stage, which time allowing for insane combos, some even 0 to death scenarios, all getting even stronger when she was losing with high percents. Some tournaments opted to quickly ban the character. A small section of Spain was one of the first areas to do this, which made some headlines only because the media made it seem like she was banned all over the country, where that really was not the case. This would have been understandable though, as a bunch of previously unknown players coming out of the shadows to win big tournaments caused a lot of frustration. Most decided at the time though that since the game was still getting updated, a ban wasn't necessary at this time, because the nerf would happen eventually. Even though it didn't for certain characters. Bet Square Enix just paid Nintendo off, honestly. And as soon as things started to get close to even being considered for a ban, the nerf actually happened. This was the last patch Smash 4 would ever receive though, and after about a year or so of discourse, it was kind of determined that even after all the nerfs, yeah, she was still the best character, and by a good margin. Still winning major after major after major, and the early hesitance as to, oh, should we ban the character or not, carrying over here is considered in retrospect to have really hurt the health of the game. She should have been banned, and if she was, maybe the game would still be played today, but she never was. And then we got games like this. Look, when a new Smash game comes out, the attention in much of the competitive scene is gonna go to that, at least for a while. But Melee is proof that if there's enough fun and substance to be had, you can still have a thriving scene for years to come. Not to say that this would have been a sure thing for Smash 4, but Bayo being in the top spot of the scene, consistently driving away viewership and producing boring, nearly unwatchable games in the most prominent spots certainly sealed the deal that Smash 4 would be dropped as soon as a new alternative came around. This alternative would be seen as much more balanced compared to its predecessor. There would be a bunch of viable characters in Smash Ultimate, creating a competitive scene that would have no need to discuss banning a particular character, at least not seriously. Well, at least until Fighters Pass Volume 1. Jeez, what is this with Nintendo making everyone pay to win? Often when a new character comes out, people immediately jump to the conclusion of, oh yeah, they're broken. And then the meta later adjusts and learns to counter the character, but Hero was different. Just look at the crazy stuff he's able to do. Oh my. Thing is though, he can be good, so good, but he's very inconsistent. The best and worst aspect about the character is the move menu. You can get Hocus Pocus at the right time and boom, tournament's over. But if you were to play that same game 10 times over, that scenario might only happen once. It's the luck of the draw. The randomness is considered uncompetitive by many, and several players were calling for a ban of the character. A stark contrast to the Bayo situation in Smash 4. Then there was hesitation, and a let's wait and see approach before things got out of hand. But not here. And surprisingly, this movement actually worked. 2 tournaments would ban Hero, one being an event ran in South Australia, and the other was actually a Nintendo-backed tournament in Europe. This was crazy for Nintendo to approve of, and was likely just a knee-jerk reaction to the fan outcry at the time, which didn't last because the community got used to and kinda figured out Hero's deal. It made this whole situation kinda laughable in retrospect. The character's randomness, which sparked his rise in the first place, ultimately led to the downfall of the scene. To many, why would you practice at a high level with a character that you could lose with in grand finals by pure chance, when there are other characters just as good, if not better, that are far more consistent? Leading us full circle to a modern day ban request that, by all accounts, could stay for the foreseeable future. But as we've seen, it's quite difficult to completely enforce a ban on anyone, regardless of how good they might be. Smash has always been a game with a varied roster, and people want to play who they want to play. Some characters like this may be centralizing, really good, even still in Smash today, looking at you, but to be ban-worthy is something else. Impossible to fully enforce? Perhaps. But for some of these, it's certainly good that we've tried.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh dude!